Welcome back here to the show, Illini Guys, powered by IlliniGuys.com, and that's where you find the great reporting of Matt Stevens. He is the Illini Guys football writer and analyst for IlliniGuys.com. He is in Durham, ready for kickoff again, 11 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock kickoff, Illinois Duke on ABC. We're talking about this quarterback, Matt. I know that you already done your homework on this. Darian Mensah, there a quarterback you've seen that his talents might compare to. Illinois did a great job against Lenora Sellers last year in the South Carolina game in the Citrus Bowl. Here's a young man coming out of nowhere, out of California, goes to Tulane, and now he's trying to lift this Duke program to higher levels.
It's funny, Larry. I would have given you Lenora Sellers' name from last year for what he had broken onto the scene with in those last couple of games with South Carolina as they were trying to make a playoff run. Everything was centered around him. And I think that if Duke's going to be as good as they want to be this year, they figure they won 9 games with adequate to maybe even below adequate quarterback play from last year at times. They figure if they want to take another step, this was the next step that they wanted to take. And they went in the transfer portal and got one of the highest paid quarterbacks out of the portal this offseason. It's basically between him and Carson Beck. But I would have given you Lenora Sellers because I think there is a comp there of the arm talent and the ceiling being very high, but also there isn't a level of consistency yet. And I don't think there was a level of consistency yet with Sellers until he came back this year and started, at least in camp, and then that opener against Virginia Tech, let everybody know, hey, I'm back and I'm a Heisman guy. Mensah has the opportunity at a higher level than Tulane last year. And John Summerall's built a really good program over there at Tulane, but at a higher level to kind of let everybody know I'm a dude and I can lift this team to another level. And I think that's what Duke is. Duke is promoting the idea, and this is the new college football world, guys. Duke is promoting the idea that their quarterback and their head coach make the same exact salary this year. So they feel really good about what they've got behind center and what they've got on the sidelines with Manny Diaz, and they already won 9 games last year. So they have a lot of confidence.
Matt, as I look at this Duke team, they won their opening week, but didn't look convincing doing it.
Sure.
Didn't have maybe is there something we can read into that? What would you say about that?
That I think Manny Diaz was pretty hot at halftime because it was tied at half, and then Duke went on a run and put the game away. I do also think that Manny has done this long enough to know that I think he can play base. He can play a base 4-3 against Elon and get away with it and not put anything on film for Illinois. And they were able to do that. And I think and they were able to do that on both sides of the ball, quite frankly, because I don't think that they did anything radically exotic on offense either with Mensah and what they want to do with the passing game. The only thing that they really showed in that third quarter against Elon was that if Darian Mensah is going to be as good as he wants to be, he sure does like throwing the deep ball, and Duke does dialing it up when they want to. And they have an offensive line with 4 returning starters and a Remington Trophy watch list candidate at center that they feel like they can do that with. And I think that's going to be the matchup that I think Duke is trying to base this whole thing on, is that their offensive line versus Illinois' defensive front. And I think Illinois' defensive front is going to have to create some chaos with Mensah. And I think that Aaron Henry feels like they can do that. But I don't think that Duke on either side of the ball, Brad, showed anything exotic that they wanted to put on film for Illinois in the same way that I don't think Illinois did with Western a day later on that Friday night.
If Manny Diaz acts like Manny Diaz, are we going to see every angle of blitz possible to see if that Illini offensive line will crack under his pressure and the Duke defense will be able to get to Luke Altmaier?
I think so, Mike, but I also question the idea of, I think Manny does do some exotic things blitz-wise, but I think what Manny does better than anybody is build confidence with the back 4 or the back 5 and the ability of being able to play press man on the outside with his corners more than every defensive corner I've ever seen except for Ryan Walters. Walt ran more press man than anybody I've ever seen in college football. And analytically, it shows that he does. Manny's a close second. I just don't know if Duke has the athletes. They have a really good corner on one side, but do they feel good on both sides to be able to run the kind of press man that Manny's known for? And the last time that he coordinated a defense for James Franklin at Penn State, that's basically what they did to force Luke Altmaier into the interception game that he had at Memorial Stadium against Penn State. And it wasn't like exotic pressures in order to do that, right? I don't know if Duke has the horses to do that, but if Manny feels like they do, he can bring a lot of different kind of looks for Luke Altmaier post and pre-snap that can force chaos and then force turnovers. Manny's not really a big guy at forcing a lot of sacks, but he thinks that disguising stuff pre-snap will give you a lot of turnovers. And that's what happened to Luke Altmaier almost 3 years ago in Champaign. And I think he's probably banking on the same thing happening on Saturday.
Yeah, and surely that's the thing. I do have some questions. Is there about this Duke defense? Are they?
Yeah.
You look at their last, and I go back to last year. They got the Ole Miss game. They gave up 52 to Ole Miss. This is not.
Right.
So I don't know. Are there some question marks about this defense? I know we've talked about putting pressure and this and that, but it seems like there are a few question marks for them.
Yeah, I think it's physicality, Brad. To be honest with you, I've heard and I agree a lot with the idea that I think Bielema might want to turn the clock back in this game and run the what out of the ball for as much of the 60 minutes as he can with those trio of tailbacks. And again, that really veteran offensive, physical, 300-pound offensive lineman that he has. And then the big packages that he likes to use with these tight ends, the depth that he has, he feels like they have at tight end. I think they feel like they can bully Duke and get into very solid second down and third down situations by just physically mauling Duke. And I don't think that they think that Duke at the linebacker position and in the middle of the field can handle the physicality that Illinois can bring. And then you make life a lot easier for Luke Altmaier in those second down and third down situations when you're trying to move the chains. But I think if Illinois goes big and can maybe maul Duke a little bit, I don't know if Duke can handle that. I do think that Duke has an athletic – they feel like they have an athletic comparison on the outside if Illinois wants to make it a throw game. But I just don't see any reason why, especially on the road, Brett Bielema would want to make this a throw game and a one-dimensional thing. Manny does a really good job of making you one-dimensional. The thing in the bowl game against Ole Miss was they were able to run the ball early, and then Jackson Dart got hot. I think that's a game plan that Illinois can use that can maybe take Duke out of its comfort zone, especially in its home stadium. And I do think that Manny has to win first down against Illinois. Manny and Duke's defense has to win first down against Illinois. If they don't do that, then I think it'll be a long day for their defense.
Do you think the quick reads and quick throws by Mensa is going to effectively counter Illinois' pass rush?
Possibly, but I also know if you look at it analytically, Mike, this young man loves to throw the deep ball. And so what I think is going to have to happen is I think Duke's going to have to protect, and I think Duke is going to have to neutralize Illinois' defensive front. I think Aaron Henry feels very good about the idea that we can roll 7, 8, maybe even 9 defensive linemen in waves at you and have defensive linemen with a full gas tank coming at Darian Mensah. And he's not that great of a scrambler. Like, he likes to throw as if he's going to roll. And if he's going to roll, that usually means, okay, I'm going to go deep. And he's a very accurate deep ball passer. So I think that they're going to have to hit some shots vertically down the field in order to get Illinois to think twice about what they're going to do base coverage wise. But I also think that if Illinois feels like with their bare front that they can get to Mensah, then they win first down on defense. And then again, it's going to be a long day for Duke. I don't think that Duke wants to get into second and third and long situations with Darian Mensah and be a one-dimensional football team in this game, because that just hands the advantage right to Aaron Henry and how he wants to call his defense.
Matt, switching gears, talking about Illinois a little bit, coming off the Western game, it seems like they answered a few questions. There were questions about the returning players, defensive line and wide receiver seemed to be where they had the new guys. Both those spots seem to hold up pretty well. I would say a wide receiver looked pretty good. I thought, what are your thoughts about the question marks maybe on the Illinois squad?
Brad, I still have question marks at wide receiver. Not exactly. I think we all know what Hank Beatty is, right? I think that's going to be a pretty consistent guy every Saturday that Illinois lines up. What I think Illinois is able to do, Brad, to be honest, is because there's still some question marks in a big type game and a big type situation at wide receiver, I think Illinois can neutralize that by going big. I think you're going to see more 12. In the red zone, you're going to see more 13 packages. I think Jordan Anderson is a big wild card in this, and that he can line up in so many different ways, tight end, H-back kind of way, especially in the red zone. And then I think where I think you got a lot answered in the wide receiver game is Justin Bowick becomes a red zone option in the same way that maybe Pat Bryant was, but in a different schematic way. I think Justin Bowick is just more of a big body that in a Josh Imatorbhebhe like way, where you have a wide receiver who looks like a tight end and is great in the red zone. And then from the 20 to the 20, you can throw to the open field with Hank Beatty, and you have better blocking to get him open in space. But I think that Illinois is going to play 5 tight ends every game and go big. And I think it helps them in the run game to do that. And I don't think that they were hiding any of that against Western Illinois. If it becomes a situation where Illinois questions what they want to do, you're going to see a bigger package. And I think you're going to see more big people near the line of scrimmage, because I think Brett Bielema is going to try to utilize the depth that he has in that running back room more than just putting it all on Luke Altmaier, especially early on like he did last year.
How good is the Duke punt return game? It seems like they've got some good returners. They ran a touchdown back, just Beatty did. Is that a point of concern for Bielema on the special teams front?
I don't think so, Mike, because I think Bielema feels like he has one of the better weapons in the kick game with Keelan Cremens. I think from a hang time standpoint, in a reducing the idea of a big return type idea, Robbie Disher feels really good about the Purdue transfer that he has, especially on the road. I think that's going to be a big factor, obviously, is that can you neutralize and play field position a little bit? But I don't think Bielema feels at all like he has a disadvantage in the punt game or the kick game with Kellen Cremens and David Alano. I think that's going to be a huge factor for Illinois if we get into a close game, because I don't think on the other side, I don't think Bielema is going to be shy about using David Alano from 50 plus, even on the road. And I don't think that he's going to be shy about trying to pin people with Kellen Clemens. He only got to punt once, but the way that his leg strength has looked in preseason camp has been a big difference maker, at least for us when we watch special teams. And Mike, we get to watch a lot of special teams. We don't get to watch a lot of team stuff.
Yeah. So the key, from what I hear, is that the key is to not punt, and then you don't have to worry about the punt return game. That's
usually that means
just score every time, and you're in a good spot. All right, that's Matt Stevens, our football writer from IlliniGuys.com. Matt's got some great stuff, ton of stuff this week leading up to this Duke game, and he'll have some post-game coverage as well out there in Durham. We'll be back right after this. We're going to talk a little bit Arch Manning, and also we'll talk about Dan Hurley. Dan Hurley making some news. We'll be back right after this.